All right, welcome to the Marriage Guardians. I'm Ritchie.
I'm Terrika.
And we've been married for how long?
Going on 8 years.
All right, we've been married for going on 8 years, and we've been through enough that we feel like it's time to start to protect marriage because it's busy out here. It's a lot of forces out here trying to distract, destroy, and ruin marriage. And we won't stand for it. I'm trying to sound like a host. I'm doing my best. All right, this is episode 1, and here's what we're going to talk about in this episode. We're going to talk about when did we know we were ready to give up the world and, commit to one person, which is a huge task. So when did we know that? How do you know that? We're going to talk about the pros and cons of marriage because there are both. And we're going to also talk about the keys to staying married. So this is a loaded episode, and I hope you are someone who has a lot of time. You're in your car, you got a long drive, because we're going to keep you busy for just a moment, okay? And it's unscripted, no editing, just raw. That's what it is. So anyway, let's jump into it, and let's start off with, when did we know we were married? I mean, ready to be married. When did you know you were ready? So you have to go back to single Terry and when did you know enough was enough and it's you know what, it's time for me to buckle down and try something different?
So I knew when I was on a dating site at the time, so this is back in the olden days of 2015 when we initially met. I was on a dating site. Met a lot of toads, and then Ritchie and I met, and he was like, hey, you want to go on the phone for a little bit? I was like, oh, okay, I guess. Then we started talking, and then when we went on our first date, and the rest is history. Seriously.
But, right. So, I mean, I guess I'll play angel's advocate. How did you know, though? How did you, or did you know? Did you know you were ready to?
I don't think I knew I was ready to get married, but I knew I was ready to be in a committed, serious relationship. I was tired of dating. I will say that I knew I wanted to be in a committed, serious relationship. I didn't know how fast it was going to happen. We just sparked and it just took off. But I just knew that I was done with dating.
So, I mean, I am kind of curious, right? How did you get to a point where you were just kind of tired of dating? Or, because you didn't say that you were ready for marriage necessarily, but it was I'm ready for a serious relationship. What has to take place in the life of a woman? You're speaking for all women on planet Earth. What has to take place in the life of a woman until she gets to a point where, you know what, I'm ready for a serious relationship, which could also include marriage? What has to happen?
I feel like it was just a lot of games being played out there. Just a lot of people not wanting to date and take up your time without committal of a title, girlfriend, boyfriend, what have you. And it was just okay, you're just taking up a lot of my time to waste my time. I don't think people, time is very precious. So wasting of time that, I just can't. I can't do that. And then also if you want to have children, I mean, I understand folks freeze their eggs and stuff like that, but it's just me at some point, I mean, it just, you want to have children and you want to do these things and share your life with somebody. So if someone's just wasting time and just want to play games, I was tired of it.
So what I gleaned from what you were saying is you were just getting tired of wasting time or not being taken seriously. And then of course, with the biological clock, that was...
Yeah, I wanted to have kids too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that was a very interesting thing. When I met my wife, she did not have children. I had one. And that was just kind of interesting, unheard of even. So kind of speaking on behalf of men, because that's the only way I can interpret what happened in my life. Yeah, I think I was ready before I met my wife. And, there comes a point when a man realizes that playing games, kind of what my wife was alluding to. Perhaps the guys that she was talking to haven't really got to that point where, we realize that playing games kind of just is that, you're playing games. You're not really building a legacy, because maybe what's important to women is, having children, so forth and so forth. One of the things that's also important to men is legacy, like leaving a legacy behind, i.e. children and your namesake. So at some point you have to come to the conclusion as a man, like, you know what? Having random girlfriends is not leaving a legacy. You're 23, you got 2 girlfriends, 3 girlfriends, no children. I mean, what happens if you were to just leave the earth? Nobody remembers you in T minus 30 years because there's nothing left behind on your behalf. So as a man, that's extremely important. And, before I met my wife even, I had come to the conclusion that, you know what, I've had some fun out here. It's time to start to realize or think about, like, what do I want to leave behind? And I think that's when I knew I was ready to start taking my relationships more seriously and, just kind of stop the game. So I was the F-boy that my wife probably had encountered before me, but I think I just reached a point of enlightenment a little faster than maybe who she was dealing with. But yeah, so we met. And how do you interpret what took place for those who don't really know our story?
We met in April 2015. We met online. We met on a dating site. We just sparked up conversation, and then really, I wouldn't suggest this, but my husband, our first date was at his house. We did do it.
Can't make this up.
But we shared a love of wine, so I was like, "Hey, I'll bring you a bottle, my own favorite bottle," and then he had his. Then we shared wine, and he cooked dinner.
Hey, look, for those who don't know, there's like an inside joke. I made tilapia, and at the time, she absolutely made me believe that she enjoyed it. How kind of her. But I learned later that she just
I'm a really, really, really great cook. So
I was a bachelor, so I was in the house by myself. Tilapia was like fine dining at the time.
But once we started getting together and I would cook for you, then
that's when I found out like so you were just pulling my leg the whole time. Like, you can cook this good, but you were like, it's tilapia. It was just very interesting.
But he was so cute. So
okay, so I do remember that. I do remember her coming over for the first time. I was rather. Were you nervous?
I don't know if I was nervous, but I really appreciate that you were a gentleman. He played this shy guy, nice guy. He just was so sweet. And then at the end of the night, he was like, "Well, you can sleep in my bed, and I'll sleep on the couch." And I was like, "Oh no, I don't want to do that." But he's just such a sweetheart, and I really feel like we just never, not even feel like, we really, since April 2015, we've never been apart.
Since April 15th, we haven't spent the day apart. It's weird.
I know.
I think that's when you're ready, when you can't be without a person. Like, you meet them and it's just like a gravitational force where, if you go 2 or 3 days without talking to them, you will notice, even more so than usual. But I do remember that first date. I was a little nervous because I felt like a lot was on the line. By that point, I've had maybe 2 or 3 just kind of not relationships, but that talking phase that kind of leads to a relationship. I had a couple of those. They had gotten more serious than just a call and ditch type of situation, but they had not progressed the way I thought they would. So I was a little apprehensive. Like, okay, what is this? All right, and I remember seeing my wife for the first time, and I said, "Wow, this is quite frankly one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen." Y'all got to see her right now. She's just turning pink. But no, I said she's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And it only made it that much better when, she began to talk and she can hold a conversation, and she had intellect. You can tell she was intelligent. And of course we had wine. So everything sounded good and looked even better. in that situation. It was a great night, and there was nothing sexual about
No,
anything, and that was the most.
I don't even think we kissed that night.
We did not kiss that night,
Yeah.
absolutely not, because I would never kiss a woman on the first date. That's just not what I do.
Yeah, like we didn't kiss. Like it's just like nice conversation. Just like I say, he was such a gentleman, and like I just yeah, we there was nothing sexual on that date.
Yeah, so it was a lot sexual on that date, but it was not like from a female perspective. Like guys are different. And that's the whole purpose of the marriage guardians is that we'll be giving our own perspectives on behalf of.
So what was sexual on that date? That
It was a lot sexual on that date, but only men will understand what I'm saying.
You were
like a woman wouldn't get it most likely
looking at her body.
Yeah, it was a lot sexual on that date. Okay, it was a lot there. It was a lot there. Okay, it was like okay, her hairstyle was my favorite hairstyle. She had like what do you call it?
It was just straight.
That's my favorite hairstyle. Like seriously, she didn't even know that. Besides what she has now, which is kind of like her first hairstyle that I saw.
Actually, it is, but like now I wasn't locked.
It's her real hair
at this time.
Yeah, it's like her real hair
at that time. Yeah.
What were you wearing? Explain to the guys who don't know what you're talking about.
It was just like a straight blowout. Like so, it was just straight. But like yeah, it is very similar. But now I have locks.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing, except now it's your natural hair too, right?
Yeah.
Because you had what? Pieces, extensions? I don't know.
Yeah,
what do you call
it? I had extensions.
Yeah, and so now it's the same hairstyle. It's just now it's natural, which is even more of what I prefer. So, and then she was dressed very conservatively. Actually, I think. What did you have on today? I remember seeing blue jeans and a shirt.
I didn't like. I literally like threw on something. Like I just had on like some like workout pants and a long t-shirt type of deal. Like I really like. Yeah, it was like so simple. Like I didn't get dressed up, nothing.
And I think that's what was the sexy part. Like a lot of men, we like natural or a woman just being herself and still being sexy or attractive. So the fact that she didn't have to overdo herself, that's what added to the attraction. I did like her body type. That was definitely something. And ladies, let me tell you, you have to take notes. When we were sitting on the couch, she didn't have socks on and her feet were like beautiful. So, I mean, I bet if we watched the instant replay of that night, I had to have glanced down more than a few times. Like, okay. So it was just a lot sexual there. But nothing overtly sexual, right? So anyway, that turned into where we are right now. And, you know, as far as our story, we'll get into that in more depth or in depth as we continue to, do these episodes. But now I do want to jump over to pros and cons with my wife. Like, okay, what's the pros and the cons of being married for that person that's listening to this episode that hasn't quite figured out whether or not they want to take the jump? Because there are some good things, there are some bad things to being married. And I think the marriage guardians should be the ones to kind of talk about it. So let's start with the pros, or rather, let's start with the cons. Let's get the bad stuff out the way. There's a lot, but we're going to summarize and we're going to be fair because, it's very rare that you find something that's absolutely flawless and perfect in this life, especially when you bring it together two imperfect people. Like you're going to have some imperfections. That's just how that works. But I'll let my wife start.
I was going to start there. It's the cons of two imperfect people from two different backgrounds. Like I'm from DMV, Maryland area. My husband's from Detroit. It's like two totally different sides of the world.
Yeah.
And like just like the way he grew up, the way I grew up, like just bringing two people together and doing that, it's gonna be a challenge. Like we just have different mindsets on doing things and the way we handle our emotions and the way we just handle just things in general. Like so those two people coming together like that, it's gonna be difficult.
And I think the cons is trying to take that person and their raw form or their rawest form and trying to implement things that you want in your partner. Because I definitely think that's a thing where you'll have a person that has really amazing qualities, but there's still some things that you have to fine tune about them. And that's a challenge because a lot of times they're resisting those things. And you're trying to give them that guidance even without coming across as pushy. Because that's the thing too, I would say being looked at as controlling for being a man. That was a con for me. It's just like, as a man, a part of getting a husband is him coming in and stabilizing things. That's a part of the job requirement. And I think one of the cons for me was initially having that looked at as a negative. It's like, hey, it's my role to come in, remove certain things, remove male friends, all that kind of. That's kind of a job. That's kind of your job. You're removing things that don't belong in order to make a space for yourself. But I'll go further than that. You're trying to mold, and I think that might be something that a lot of people don't quite understand. When you meet your spouse, there's a very, very high likelihood that they will not be absolutely perfect. There's going to be some things that you're going to, want to change about your partner. I don't care who you are. You're going to want to change certain things. I know for a fact, like when my wife and I met, I was a different person. If we were to jump over to who I was prior, I'm not who I am today. And trust me, she did it a lot more subtle than I did, but she's changed a lot about me. I mean, it's just the facts. She's made, for example, I'll give you one great example. I'm a homebody. I love to stay in the house, in the basement, in my man cave, playing video games. And you know what? She is just not like that. And she's kind of put pressure on me like, hey, I want to go out. I want to travel. I want to, and I've had to I had to change in that area.
He didn't have a passport when we first
I didn't have a
met.
passport.
And the first like year, we went to the Dominican. Within the second year, we went to Mexico together. We went to the Bahamas. Oh yeah, within the first 2 years, we went to Bahamas because that's where we got engaged. Yeah, so like we went a lot of places. But yeah, he didn't have a passport. So within the first few months of us dating, that summer, that August, we were in the Dominican. And he loved it.
So I was going to follow up with, let your partner change you. If you're going to marry somebody, let them change you a little bit. Listen, I'm not saying lose your personality, lose who you are, but listen, they see something that you probably can't see, or else you probably wouldn't need a partner. All right, that's the best part. So I'll segue into a pro. You have somebody else there. And that's a multifaceted point. You have someone there when you're not feeling so well. You have someone there for a second opinion. You have someone there to help you with finances, life, children. You have someone there that is going to be there because,
especially children.
Yeah, because that's what marriage is. Just saying, you know what? I'm vowing to stay with you through it all, through sickness and health, for better or for worse. That's a really tall statement. And having somebody who's going to be there when you're at your best or at your worst, that is a pro.
Yeah, for sure.
You got a pro?
A pro. I like the consistency of marriage. Like my husband, and I'm not saying that every partner is like that, but my husband is very, very consistent. Like I know that he is going to answer my phone calls. I know that he is going to go to work and he's going to be home around a certain time. I know he'll go to the gym, go play basketball. Like I know that he is going to help me with the groceries. I mean, and this isn't like, fairy tale, like, because he has his stuff, but like just constantly being consistent. Like I feel like I have like just with my childhood and everything, like just like an attachment thing, like because my parents were divorced, my dad was in the Navy, wasn't there all the time, so like just like that. Oh well, if that person is around, like I like that. I need to be with that person. I felt like that was an issue in my old relationships, but like I feel like that gets exacerbated when that person isn't consistent, right? And then that person will make you feel some type of way about like, oh, you're too needy. Well, no, I just like consistency. And Ritchie has never made me feel like that. Like
that's really strange. I mean, I never heard you articulate that. I never heard you describe yourself as needy or in need of attention. I never thought you would even say that because it's kind of surprising considering that naturally, because I don't have to, like I said, you have to sometimes work on your partner and get them to see different points of view, blah, blah, blah. But that is one of the things that she did not have to work on, which I would say is a con, right? And I'm not talking about what she said. I'm saying a con is the potential of failure. And here's why. We hear that several marriages end in divorce, so we have to address it. A con is just not, not having the mindset to understand marriage. Is that even a con? Like just not understanding that marriage or two people may not fit perfectly together and still having to work. That's a con right there. It's like we are not exactly two perfect individuals, but we have to deny ourselves in order to stay together. That's tough.
That is true.
I don't know if I'm saying it right.
But you're right about that. Like denying yourself, because Richie's not a big talker. He, like you said, he will stay in the house all day long if I let him. But like he'll like play chess with me because I'm like, hey, I want to play chess, or I want to talk, or I want to, hey, how was your day, type of deal. And like he'll talk more than, or even answering the phone, like because I'll like just call him, just be like, hey, so he does that for me. I know that he does that for me. And then on the other end, like I do some things for him too.
But no, she's right. Look,
yeah.
okay,
like,
so
it is a constant denial of self. That was a very, I like that you said that. Like you are constantly dying to self in a marriage, and the thing is though, and it's not bad. I don't think that's bad, because like it's so raw, like dying to self, like dying of the selfishness, of some of your like faults too. Like if you have some things you brought in, like maybe you drink too much, or like maybe you play video games too much, or like it's a constant, like it's a pruning and tuning of yourself, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe if I reframe it, because I was trying to find it, but my wife was able to kind of like pluck it out because she knows how I think, she knows me. But I would say a con is having to deny yourself in order to become one, right? Because you come from your own.
But you said that's a con. I think that's a pro.
But I'm saying the challenge of
the challenge of it, but the
outcome.
But the outcome is the pro.
But the con is, for example, I remember my wife initially struggling with, so I can't, do certain things. I can't do this. I can't do that. It's like, not with a husband. You can't. Well, what about I want to do that? Like,
that is true.
I don't feel, so it was tough for her to make adjustments, because that's who she is naturally. She's very, very, friendly, vibrant, friendly.
Oh, and I brought a coworker some food once, and like that's when we were dating, and that didn't go well. So you can't cook for no other man.
Yeah, because naturally she's a very nice person. She's one of the nicest people I've ever met. She loves to cook. She loves to make people happy, and give and give. She's a giver. That's what she's an absolute giver. What they say, be a fountain and not a drain. She's a fountain. She makes things better, right? So, in this situation that we're talking about, like, you can't make his stomach fatter. Like, what you doing? Like, you gonna have to let him starve. And on top of that, he had a wife too. So the thing about it was just her just being nice, right? And it's just like, nah, I think we need to go ahead and leave that in the single or the other dimension, because that's not gonna work for us to move forward. But that's my point. It was difficult for her to rationalize with that, like, but I'm just being nice. So that's the con. It's the pressure, and what they say, pressure makes diamonds. Yeah. But the pro is you become a refined version of yourself. Was there anything that I struggled to change about myself that you can remember? Because I'm struggling to remember something that I had to change. I'm gonna go with video game. I can't keep saying video games, but it's gotta be something else. I feel
like when we talk about control and stuff, like I feel like you were a little bit like very like, because you came out of another relationship. Yeah. Like he was previously married, so I feel like there was some residual stuff that came out of that. Mm-hmm. But I think over time, like I've just realized, like you're just protecting our house and our union. Like that's what I think, that I'm coming to realize that more and more, like that it's not a control thing. It's like you do have to keep out outside forces, because this is what matters, like the people inside this house. And I've learned that more and more and more. over the years that it wasn't a control thing. It's a protection thing. Like you have to protect, like, even when you feel bad about your spouse, because I'll feel bad now and I'll like want to say nasty things and I'll journal a lot of stuff actually. But you shouldn't share that with family or friends because they'll hold on to that, right? Like we would have moved on the next day and they're still holding on to that for years to come. Like you really do have to protect your marriage. And I think I did a lot of damage early on, like, just being mouthy or like, oh, he's controlling and talking. And it's just like, no, like we'll handle it inside the house. When we go outside, we're the Knoxes, we're good, but like we're gonna handle this inside this house and not take this outside.
Yeah, and you know what? That was a thing, man. Like, I am a protector, and not in the sense that you might be thinking about, but anything that I'm associated with, I do protect it because I like to preserve things. I'm a preserver. Whether it be it doesn't matter.
Same socks with holes in.
I got the same socks, the holes in them.
He has the same Eastern Michigan sweatshirt from when we met.
I mean, I will keep something forever because I will pledge.
He has the same car.
The same car since we met. We met in what was it?
In 2015.
I had the same car. All right.
He bought another car that is a nice car recently when we go on date nights and stuff. But he did.
But I'm not giving up my first car.
Exactly. He still drives that car.
I'm gonna protect it. I'm a preserver, so I'm not letting anybody get in my car or talk to my car or touch my car. This shirt, for example, is like 14 years old, 13 years old. I'm not exaggerating.
Like seriously, I know it is because like
she's seen this.
He has a uniform to school to where he works, and like he definitely.
Yeah, so I mean,
I'm there. I feel like we marry our opposites, but our core values align. Yeah, right? So like I think that's what it is, like, because you're very like strategic and like he's very detail oriented. Like I don't like to read instructions, like I just like to get to it, and like there's a lot of things like we basically, like, he deals with a lot of nitpicky stuff and I'm like, oh, that's great, like, but I'll deal with like bigger picture things, right?
Yeah.
So like we basically married the opposite, but like when it comes to core things like Christian values, our kids, like we planned our kids.
Yeah.
Right? Like we wanted you want your kids, but like we planned it, right? Yeah. We planned this house. Like
our careers. No, that's not one. But the house, the kids. This podcast. I don't know. But no, like, okay, oh no, but no. So she did say something that was pretty amazing that I want to make sure doesn't go over anyone's head, is that we are pretty opposite. And I think a lot of times people search for someone who's like them. And I do think that's a mistake. Okay. I actually was dating someone who was very much like me before I met my wife. And it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. Dating someone, I'm not saying her name, so don't even ask until this is off. But no, dating someone who is absolutely different from me allows us to be a stronger union. If we have the same strength, it's like having two right hands, two right legs. If you got the same strengths, how much are you planning to get done? But the fact that she covers my blind spots and she thrives in areas that I don't, and vice versa, that allows us to really be a power couple, and also we have two varying perspectives.
Yeah, we do. Because I will say I'm pretty, like he said, that I'm very like giving, but I can be very flighty too. Like just like, oh, like invite everybody. Like this person, I'm that person. I feel like our son is like that. This is my friend. This is my friend. Like he doesn't even know them. Like Ritchie does have a sense of discernment that like I've just never seen. Like he would be like, oh, this is gonna happen. I'm like, no. I'm like, dang, he was so bright. Like his discernment is just on point, and I'm just like, oh, I want to talk to this person or I want to befriend this person, and I'm like so inviting, and like he initially I was like, oh, he's so standoffish, but it's discernment, and it's just like, okay, like it's yeah, like we are we're very opposite in certain ways. But like I said, the core values, like church, like we're looking for a good church home, especially for the kids, like they're little, and like making sure they're at Sunday school and stuff like that. And like we said, like the house and just a lot of things, like we come together, like taught me how to play chess. We love playing chess. We're both very competitive. Like that's cool. Yes, that's so we're very competitive.
Right.
Uh, yeah. So
And she has done an amazing job with just making me um, move out of my comfort zone. Right. Um, I don't know. It's just a thing that she is able to do. She seems to have like the instruction manual for ways to make me uncomfortable, but through that uncomfortableness, I'm growing as a person. And I do the same thing for
he
her.
makes me very uncomfortable.
I make her uncomfortable because it's like I always say, comfort is the enemy. You're not growing if you're comfortable. It's like, I have so many expectations I place on her, and it's like it forced her to get better. It wasn't silly stuff like, hey, I want you to do things. It was like, these are things that's going to help us.
Yes.
And
and that's the whole thing too. It's about us, like, and it's that selfishness. Like, I'm still like, I can't say, oh, 100% I'm not selfish. Like, I was single for 34 years, right? Like, so like it's a lot of things that I did by myself, that I like my professional life and living by myself and living overseas and just a lot of different things. And it's just like, you're constantly, like we said, dying to self, like constantly like, what's good for the unit, right? Like,
Yeah.
what's good for us, not good for me.
So when we talk about going back to that first question, when do you know you're ready or, serious enough to be in a marriage? I think when you've come to the realization that you're going to have to make adjustments with whoever you decide to settle down with. If you're not prepared to make adjustments to yourself, or share or give or nurture someone else, or give something and not expect something in return. If you're not there mentally, then I would probably say give it some time and work on that stuff first. If it's all about what you want, and that goes for me too. Like, hey, like she said initially, it was like control. And some of it probably was, to be fair to her. Even though my intentions were good, it doesn't change how it made her feel, right? So, if you're not, in some instances, I have to kind of fall back and say, you know what? This is a grown woman. She was alive a lot long before she met me. She's smart. She's intelligent. I trust her. You know what? I don't have to control everything. In fact, that's one of the pros to being married. You can release some control and not go, tumbling down, right? But I think that goes back to marrying the right person. If you pick someone to, carry your last name and join in as one, make sure they're a good person. Make sure that they're a responsible person.
I would say making sure they're a good person and responsible. Yes. Like, what does that credit score look like? Like, how do they handle money? I mean, even though we handle money differently, right?
Right.
But like we continually like come together to like, refine that as well. But yeah, like a good person, and like my husband said too, like not somebody who's coming in like, I'm gonna live my single life but be married. Like, I think a lot of people like feel like that, like you're gonna come in and like, oh, I'm gonna do the things I used to do and have some of the friends I used to have, or go to the hangout spots like I used to, or go to the bar after work like I used to, or do the, like you can't do that. Like, I
mean,
you are married. Like, you really have to consider that other person, and some things just are not gonna work.
Yeah, that could be a con. You have to always consider the other person, because they matter. They're real, and in a lot of instances, they're with you through some of the hardest times.
They really are. Like, because let me tell you something. Like, we were talking about this, and it's like, can you live with that person? Like, if something were to go wrong, like just in general, like some of these friends and these people, like, can you really? I continue to come to the conclusion, like, there is no place for me. This is my home. Like, I have to work stuff out with my husband, and we can work through a lot of things, but it's just that, I don't know, I just love him so much.
I think no, she really touches on something that's important. Once you do get married, that relationship, that covenant, that becomes your safe space.
Yeah.
You know, I go out into the world, she goes out into the world. We're both intermingling with people for our jobs, our business, blah blah blah. But when you come home, that's the person that's got your back no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of your friends, you know, should you fall upon hard times, you need a couple dollars. You never know. You can call them. Hey, can I get 175? Can I get $300, $500? No, like no. It's like, you know, I don't have it to give, or I don't have room in my home for you. Like, I'm cool to talk with you. I'm cool to go out for drinks with you. But as far as you want to move into my home, like I don't have that.
Even your family will do you dirtier than strangers sometimes. Like, yeah, like you. Yeah,
you'll be surprised who really has your back when you really need them. That's though true. You'll be surprised who doesn't. Hey, you know, I always say, you know, go to your friend and say, hey, my rent is overdue. I'm set to be evicted. Can I move into your house? You'll find out real quick who got your back and who don't. Well, you know, the way my you know, you'll get some excuses there. So, you know, what happens with marriage, you have a permanent best friend. You know, it's different from a best friend from high school or what have you. You talk sometimes. But you got someone who's really there, who has to be there, who vowed to be there. And that's it's a little different. There's levels to this.
I feel like also like not, because sometimes like when you're like that close with somebody all the time, like you do get into these arguments, and we were both very bullheaded. So like we just get into like when we get some arguments, but I'm saying it's like just long knowing that that person is not your enemy, right? Like, like we're doing life together. Yeah, we're doing life together. Yeah. And the person is not your enemy, right?
Yeah. And I think we do have to address the pro and con. All right. Starting with the con first. You have to give up sex with the world. That's the thing. If you plan to be like happily married, you're gonna give up every P, every V. Those late night things you used to do, you're gonna have to give them all up.
Yes.
That's if you want to stay married. You're gonna have to give them all up.
True.
Unless you have like a will and you know what? Just keep it. You're gonna have to give them all up, and you know, just get one.
Yeah, that is true. And you know what? For us. Because
I don't know what she's about to say, so hang on tight.
That's something that we do share, like just being very sexual beings. That's yeah, we're very sexual.
I mean, yeah. So it's like, okay, I know I'm gonna say this right now. I don't condone having sex before marriage. So if you're going to do it the right way, which is sustain yourself,
right,
you can kind of sense like the fire that you have with that person. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can sense it through the conversation. Like, I feel we had great chemistry from day one, and it translated over into those other aspects of like our sexuality and stuff like that. But
I feel like I'm will go on record and say I still lust for my husband.
She does, and I'm just a little piglet, just trying to get away from the she wolf. Seriously, it be feeling like that sometimes. But look, to be clear, don't spit on my laptop. I'm serious. I got a keyboard right here, and I just see this. No, I'm just kidding. No, listen. Jokes aside, don't spit on I know you're about to do it. No, jokes aside, I still lust for my wife too. You know what I'm saying? So I would say, oh my God, this is super important. Make sure the person you marry, you are like really attracted to her. I can't stress that enough. Like if I married my wife because she had a good personality, I would have been gone already. I ain't gonna lie. Like look, she cool and all that, but man, I can't. You got to make sure you like are physically attracted to that person. At least that, okay?
I would definitely say that, and that sounds so shallow, but it's so true.
Let's be real.
It really is true. Like, oh, this person has a great personality, like, but at the end of the day, like,
we've all dated. We're all adults, right? We've all dated somebody because they was cool. How long that lasts? All right, you just don't. It don't work. It don't work. Not for marriage, because you're talking about forever. Like, you're gonna have to wake up and just look at her and be like, yeah, I don't like her today, but she still is my type. You got to be that. If it ain't that, it ain't that.
That is true.
So
like,
yeah. So the cons is
like want all of that.
You still gotta want that. And this goes back to,
and we have beautiful children.
Right. This goes back to what I was saying earlier when I said you have to make sure that you're willing to change for your partner. I said it was a con because you have to deny yourself. So when your partner tells you certain things are attracted to them, you should take heed.
Yeah, that's true, because like he had like a smaller beard, but then he really grew his beard because I really like beards. And
that's what she's attracted to.
He liked natural hair. So, I went through a lot of different changes, and I'm in my third year of locks. But yeah, he loves them.
Yeah, so
like he really encouraged me to lock my hair.
Yeah, so now what happens when you listen to your partner is that you become more attractive to them. Like she's like even more attractive to me. By virtue of just listening to my feedback, and
he even like, I looked at some photos too, and like I feel like we get more and more attractive.
Yeah, that's actually a thing. But I think
I
think that's because we're like constantly refining each other.
That's true.
We're so, and also another pro to being married is that you'll probably live longer as a result of having somebody there as an accountability partner. Like, hey, you shouldn't eat that. You got somebody there like challenging you to be a better person. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that part. Like, you got somebody saying, hey, you should go back to school. Hey, you should save this. You put this money away. Somebody is always there as your mother. I mean, your advice as your spouse, giving you positive reinforcement, positive feedback, telling you look beautiful. Like, these things add up.
Oh, let's go for a walk. Oh, let's like fast because hey, we just overdid it, right? Like, we do a lot of that together. We do a lot of like, just like we challenge each other too. So like we'll like, oh, like let's like go to the gym this many times a week, right? And then like also like seeing him go play basketball, like he knows I need my time to go to the gym too. And like, so we do that, and like the eating stuff, like, oh, maybe you don't want to.
Yeah. And if you're by yourself or you're just dating people who don't have any invested interest in you past like sex, like it's just, hey, I'm here to have sex and I don't care what you do after. I mean, how much can you grow from that? But when you're with someone, and I'm going to tell you why that person is investing in you, because they have to be with you. They want you to be good because they're going to be attached to you. So it's a invested interest in them to improve you, right? Yeah. So it's like,
and plus I want them to be around like when the kids finally grow up and they're out of the house. Like, I'm not saying that I'm like hoping for that anytime soon, because oh my gosh, they're so cute. But like when that does happen, I want somebody to be around. I want my husband to be with me because we have lots of plans.
We got a lot of plans. And you know what?
A lot of
and I'm gonna be here. I mean, you've been hearing her say it. I'm going to the gym every day. I'm eating right. I'm gonna be here in spades. I'm gonna be here. Yes. But the point is, going back to the pros, that is a pro. We talked about having to sacrifice, give up the world of sexual diversity and possibilities. But one of the pros that is easily overlooked is having consistent sex in-house. Yes. This might be more...
Even the Bible talks about having consistent sex.
Oh, yeah, the Bible talk about it now. All right, and I think that's a real thing that a lot of people got mixed up. They got it real twisted out there about, they married, they ain't having sex with like once every month. All right. Hey, look. Hey, married couples be getting in like 3 times, 4 times a week.
Look at.
Like, seriously, like between. No, I'm serious. Like, a lot of people think that married couples, they don't, because you hear little movies and stuff. Now, let me tell you something. married couples are the most sexually active people in the world. All right, because it's right there. I mean, imagine trying to go to bed and the thing you like most is right next to you every night. I mean, it's gonna happen. It's gonna be a thing. So I would say that's a pro, especially for men, because women. They can pretty much have their pick of men when it comes to that kind of stuff. Men don't have this laundry list of things that you have to do in order to entice them.
I wanted to quote that, but maybe we'll go back to like the whole sex in the Bible thing.
Yeah, I mean,
because
that's a whole episode.
Yeah, like, but seriously though, you gotta have regular sex.
Oh, you definitely do, and and I think
what is sex protects.
You say what?
Sex protects.
Hey, go ahead. I'm just gonna listen. Go ahead. You got some things to get off your chest. Go ahead.
No, I just feel like you gotta have regular sex.
Yeah. And we agree on that. So like,
agree.
I would say that they're very, very, very important. I'm gonna tell you what I think sex does avert. As a attractive person, or even just being a human being, you have several attractions. We've been talking about this a lot in our personal space. Is just you can't stop yourself from being attracted to people. The world is full of attractive people, right? And it's full of people that you would be attractive to. It's not a crime, right? To find someone attractive. It is what it is. But that's what sex helps you avert. Like, when you're single, you're just like wild goose all over the place. Again, not building anything, not establishing legacy. To segue back to like the first points, that having a partner that you're attracted to help you kind of avert some of those sexual urges. It kind of stabilizes you. Because I know I'm not the only person who has been wildly ready for sexual activity, and then when you have it, it's like, oh, okay, I'm fine. All right, it's like I don't want to go out and sleep with every woman on the planet. I think I'm good. That's what happens. Like, it's like that's what a great sexual experience with your partner kind of does. It's like, oh, you know what? I guess I'm happy. I'm good. I don't need to go and uproot the entire world for my sexual urge. I'm good. I have a partner who's taking care. I'm good. So yeah, I think that's.
And also, I feel like when you're out having sex as a single person, if that's what you choose to do, it's like almost people use it as like I'm gonna say like when you masturbate, but I'm saying like I feel like when you masturbate, there's no intimacy there, right? But like if you're constantly out there like having sex, like it's almost like bringing somebody into the fold, right? Like it's
objectifying.
Like objectifying, like it's just like
you're being a sexual object.
Like that person is a sexual object, so it's like there's no like intimacy there, like
and it's kind of like soon as you're done, it's like, all right, well, you catching the Uber or you staying here or you leaving.
And whereas like sex, when you're like intimate with somebody and you love that person, it's just so beautiful. Kind of like when we had our kids, like that was beautiful. Like
that is a very beautiful process. And I'll go a little further and say that you're two individuals. And I think my wife and I agree that sex is for married people because of what the responsibility or what happens when you really engage. All right, you got two people, and when we say that two people turn into one, that quite literally happens when you have a child. You have two people, separate identities, separate frames of mind and thought. You come together sexually, and you produce a singular child. And that is the truest essence of marriage. It's two people becoming one. And I think our children are exactly that. I can look at my son, I can look at my daughter and say, that's from her, that's from me, that's from him. And that's exactly what I mean. It's like, it's such a beautiful and fulfilling experience that is wasted when you just give it to a random hookup as a single person. It's lost. The essence of that process is lost. It's cheapened. So but as our last point before we get up out of here, what are the keys to staying married? I feel like we went through every stage. We went through dating, then we went through what you should experience or expect to experience in terms of pros and cons once you're married, and now let's talk about how you stay married, because we know there's like such a strong force out there fighting against marriages, which is why we're dubbed the marriage guardians, because we want to share real stories to help real couples either commit to being married or stay married. So what are some of your keys to staying married?
Keys to staying married: having regular sex.
No. Jokes aside, I would argue that that is absolutely true. And not just sex. I would say good sex.
Good
Sex you enjoy. Yeah. I mean, and that takes learning, understanding your partner and what he or she likes, and incorporating that into, your system, and understanding like it's not just about me. And that's a big adjustment for me. Yeah.
It's not just about me. Like you want to give. Like I feel like that too. Like when you're married and you're intimate and you love that person, like you're like, I want to know what you like. Like I want to give you what you like. Right?
I don't know. I'll start that. You look in my eyes. You looking right in my eyes now. You know how I am. You turn this into an OnlyFans on them. Be an OnlyFans in a minute. Hey.
So yeah, no. I feel like that's one of the keys.
That's how she looked at me about it. All right, stop playing with me. All right, you know how I am.
What do you think another one is?
Oh, okay. The keys to staying married. I think we kind of went over it quite extensively, but I'll just say compromise. You have to be willing to basically deny yourself, and be willing to give sexually, mentally, however, give without expecting something back. And I think that's a challenge for a lot of people. And I think we're conditioned to be that way, whether it be how we work. I mean, we don't go to work just to feed the world. No, we go to work to receive a check. We don't. It's really rare that people will give to people.
It's so transactional. Like everything.
It's transactional, yeah.
But like in a real intimate, loving marriage, it's that whole like, oh, if me, give me. And like I said, I've been guilty of that. Like, there's a portion of a marriage like, what about me? And it's like, no, Terrika, like, I feel like I had to like find a Bible plan. It was talking about Joyce Myers, and it was like something about not about you, right? And I was like, oh, God's speaking to me, because I've been like, oh, me. It's like, no, it's not about, like, you stop that, like, once you got married, right? Like, it's about us.
Yeah, so. It's a compromise, and not only on the male side, not only on the female side, but on both sides. You both have to give up things about yourself that you may not want to give up. I mean, think of it this way: when you were single, just how much freedom you had to just go here, do that, drink this, find this, do. I mean, it's not even
and I'm gonna say how unhappy I was too. Like, because I do feel like even like with kids, like kids need discipline. Like, imagine like a kid like doing whatever they want, eating all the ice cream. Okay, your teeth gonna roll out your mouth, and like, oh, I go in and out of the house the way I want to. Like, I mean, I've never found anybody like that whose parents just let them do whatever, that it ended well, right? Like, you have parents for a guardian for a reason, like to give you that discipline. So yeah, no, it's just it's just
blown away by that point. That's an amazing point. Yes, you do have rules and structures within a marriage that seem a little restrictive, but the contra, or the opposite side of the spectrum, is sometimes just too much is too much.
It's just too much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. It's like your parents are there to. Everybody has parents. It's like you probably felt growing up like, my parents are just restrictive. They're saying I can't go over this person's house. I can't do that. But they were really protecting you, right? Mm-hmm. And if they were not there and just completely let you be and do what you wanted to do, you'd be like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone. You just be eating M&Ms you probably wouldn't be, So, that part of marriage is there for a reason. I think it takes some time. We've been married for 8 years. It takes some time to get to understand that. So I'm going to say denying yourself is one. I'll say another one is maturing as a person. All right. We're talking about keys to staying married. You have to mature. Not everybody is, how mature you have to be to, give up your
like your fleshly desires.
Your fleshly desire. You know how mature you have to be in order to do that? How mature you have to be to say, okay, I can't spend this money on a PS4 game. I have to put it towards a utility. But that's a mature process. Or
I can't hang out at happy hour and hang out at the club or the day party all day long with my friends and do. I mean,
It's a mature thing. It's like,
it's like
so
grow up.
it's like right, and realizing like, you know what, I can't do everything. I can't
Yeah,
be everything or
and
be
it's
everyone's.
okay too.
Yeah, so I think that that's one of the keys to staying married is mature. Like be
Mm-hmm.
willing and be open to change. Anything else?
I think that's a lot. Just
I
to
think we
say.
overloaded you. I told you that was going to happen. But I would not leave this episode without saying my last key to staying married, which is very obvious. You have to have I would say, I'm going to put in my words and then you can change it how you want, but you have to put God first.
I knew you were gonna say that, and
Yeah, I was
I
going to
was
say that.
like, I feel like we missed like the biggest part of it.
That's the biggest
And that
part.
is the biggest part because, whew, I mean, like just like even with the change, you're talking about like changing that person changing. Like there's some things like I can't nag him and do things. I can pray to God about it, and God can work on him,
That's a good one.
and He sure has like on certain things. It's like oh man, that's what I was praying about. Like or like or not even just like praying about like God like changing him or but like it's also about like that to me like look at you, Terrika, like what are some things that you, because you're imperfect, right? So I would say top one is God being a foundation of our marriage for sure.
Right,
For
and
sure.
being spiritually aligned is a big thing.
Yes.
It's to stay married. You don't want to be, for example, you don't want to be a Christian and be married to someone that
Uh,
might be identify as a Muslim or atheist. That's going to create
being
conflict.
unequally yoked,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, all right, that's it right there. All right,
Yeah.
but with that being said, we're going to close this one out. I had a great time
Yeah.
talking marriage, love, and this is just episode one. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, and certainly we would love to have guests. We are definitely going to put that out there into the atmosphere. If you're a married couple of 1 year or more, or just married couple, let's just leave it at
Yeah.
that. And you would like to join us in conversations, we can do so. If you need to talk with us in private, we're not licensed by any means, but we are experienced. And if you are someone who just wants, hey, can we meet and just talk about our problems with you? We don't necessarily have to broadcast. It can be private. We're here for that. We'll talk more about that as time goes on. But certainly, we are here to protect marriage. We're all about marriage, and we're going to stay married. So we want to
Yes.
bring as many
Amen.
people. Amen. As many people along as possible. All right. But I'm Richie. This is Terrika. We are the Knoxes, and it's been a pleasure. We'll talk to you again.
All
Thank you.
right. Thanks.